wash all this scum off the streets.
What it does is it draws you right in to their world the way they see it, the way they imagine it, the way they, their perception.
There was Jimmy and Tommy and me, and there was Anthony Stabile.
How you doing?
You see the person walk in the room and he's standing there, and then you cut to see what he sees, but the camera starts to move. It becomes his point of view. And people sort of talk towards the camera. I did one of those in Goodfellas, where everybody's saying, hi, how are you? Where they're introducing all the gangsters hanging out at that Bamboo Lounge, where they're all speaking. They're not talking to the camera, they're talking to the left of the camera, which is the main character.
And you had Nicky Eyes.
What's up, guy?
And Mikey
I
Francesi.
saw that guy. Yeah, I want to see him.
And Jimmy Two Times, who got that nickname because he said everything twice, like...
I'm gonna go get the papers,
Perhaps you should look to point of view as an expression of the emotional point of view of the character being discussed. You may see that person in the scene. You may see other people in the scene. I think the best example I can come up with of a complex expression of point of view is in George Stevens' film, Place in the Sun, which I think is his masterpiece and probably one of the finest uses of a filmmaker utilizing the studio system to achieve an astounding result. We're dollying behind George as he walks in, and there's a marvelous moment where the butler walks by, and the butler realizes who he is but doesn't give him any recognition. And it's just, again, one of those pieces of identifying George's status as an outsider, as an unknown. He comes in, as he enters the room, he sees Marcia, the daughter of his uncle, his cousin Marcia, and she turns in his direction and she smiles. It is an amazing piece of screen exposition, and yet it's always from the point of view of poor George. You are assured that all of the characters' feelings towards this newcomer are either patronizing or absolutely snobbish. Once he arrives, no matter who you're looking at on film, you are seeing it from his emotional point of view. We see him sneak away. He can't put up the facade any longer, and he goes down the hall and finds a room with a pool table. He sets up an impossible shot with the cube behind his back. In the course of the shot being made, we see Elizabeth Taylor walk by in the background, return, and poke her head in the door. And as the ball goes in the pocket, Elizabeth Taylor has stuck her head back in the door, walked in the room, and goes, wow.
Wow. Hello.
Hello.
I see you had a misspent youth.
I guess it was.
A while alone. Being exclusive.
I think it's just one of those moments that you realize you have two incredible screen personalities working together, and the way the camera is handled, and it is George Stevens' total confidence in the performances of these actors. I mean, you are immediately swept into their romance.
I think the best directors, Stevens and Weiler and Wellman and Hawks, although they had style, style was so broad that it never overtook the story.
The style is at the service of the story, and the story is really about these humans struggling with one another, pursuing certain goals, trying to get what they want, trying to find whatever they're trying to find, and the style presents those as a kind of vehicle for those.
In drama, there is this idea of this basic action that you can reduce to a sentence. I mean, Get Back Home is a basic action. You've seen it before. It's called Ulysses. And if you don't think it works there, it's really terrific when it's E.T. Now, that's what drives these things.
There's a way of telling stories in American film in which kind of simple, emotional ideas are sort of strongly and clearly presented.
There are many ways you can write a movie. You must always fade in, for example, you'll always fade in on a long shot. Remember that. In one way or another, it'll be a long shot, and down in the front, you gotta have a sign that says danger explosives, because that's where the chase is gonna come through in the 8th reel. So you plant that immediately, which makes complete sense.
George, I'll tell you how the picture opens. A Nazi submarine sneaks into Hudson's Bay, and they send ashore a landing party to raid the outpost.
Along comes an air patrol, sinks the submarine, leaving the Nazi invaders in Canada.
I want this picture to be a document. I want to hold a mirror up to life. I want this to be a picture of dignity, a true canvas of the suffering of humanity.
But with a little sex.
With a little sex in it.
You've got to coat the pill with candy. You've got to draw an audience along so they're asking what's going to happen next.
I know that I can make a story, at least 50% of the time, interesting for the first hour while you're falling in love. And I know I can make it fairly interesting while you're falling out of love. But I know I'm in trouble for the section that they're in love. That's got to last not very long, or you're reduced to them running through the cornfield in slow motion and falling on the ground and tumbling over each other and sipping wine from each other's lips or something. It all looks like American Express commercials. If I don't have a narrative, a strong narrative to work with, and if I happen to be trying to do, let's say, a love story which is purely character-driven, then the only story elements I have to work with are the conflict that exists between two people that has to be overcome. So there's a dynamic as long as that's not at rest. Well, once they capitulate, everything's okay. Now I realize, oh, I'm really in trouble. Now I got to skirt this part very carefully, because the next time I've got real story elements to work with are when something happens.
I don't think we're going to make it, okay?
Now it gets interesting again.
Why?
I'm always afraid when I'm working that I don't have enough story. This is something I always complain about to myself, to the writers I'm working with. Who's going to pay attention to these people if we don't have some sort of a story to lean on? In the instances where the films have been successful, and they aren't always, but when they are successful, it's because in some way character can substitute for story. The nerve that got punched in the way we were was that these two characters were such obvious kind of mythical prototypes in America. The WASP American and the ethnic immigrant. The one that has everything and the one that has nothing. The one to whom everything comes easily, the one to whom everything seems difficult. Everybody in the world seems to be able to identify with one or the other of these characters, usually both.
Once you have them captured, once they are playing that game with the people on the screen, this is like you got them by the throat. You can't let it go. Just squeeze a little more and more and more. Don't let them escape. Don't let them suddenly don't wake them up. Don't let them realize, look, this is only a movie.
Winner of 5 Academy Awards, Billy Wilder ranks among the top award winners for writing and directing. He learned from his apprenticeship in the studio system of the 30s how to escalate the drama by exaggerating characters and situations.
Hi, Jerry. Everything under control?
Have I got things to tell you?
What happened?
I'm engaged.
Congratulations. Who's the lucky girl?
I am.
What?
Osgood proposed to me. We're planning a June wedding.
What are you talking about? You can't marry Osgood.
You think he's too old for me?
Jerry, you can't be serious.
Why not? He keeps marrying girls all the time.
But you're not a girl, you're a guy. And why would a guy want to marry a guy?
Security.
You have to exaggerate some in order to make your point.
Billy, being the writer, knew precisely what he wanted in every scene, as a writer-director does.
The director makes choices, and he chooses what to leave in and what to take out, and then you bend it as you're doing it. You know, you'd sometimes take the idea of a scene and you embellish it or change the focus of it in some way, and you end up, in a sense, telling the story.
As the writer and director of a film, I can say to the audience, this is what you see at this time, because I think it's best for you to see this at this time, because you'll be most influenced by it and most affected by it.
Joseph Mankiewicz went to Hollywood in 1929. He honed his writing skills in the script-writing shops at MGM and Paramount. Once he came to direct, he captured audiences' attention with his sparkling, sophisticated wit and stylized dialogue.
She's a girl of so many interests.
Pretty rare quality these days.
A girl of so many rare qualities.
So she seems.
So you've pointed out so often. So many qualities so often. Her loyalty, efficiency, devotion, warmth, and affection, and so young.
Realistic dialogue, as it is spoken in everyday life, cannot be brought to the stage or screen. For the simple reason it would bore everybody out of their minds.
Honored members, ladies and gentlemen, for distinguished achievement in the theater, the Sarah Siddons Award to Miss Eve Harrington.
I wanted to do a film about the getting of an awards. What you go through to get it, if you want it badly enough, and what happens to you, and the general manipulation of people and ambitions in the theater.